One of the great things about retrofuturism is that we can start to see the actual 21st century future that was imagined by early 20th century artists. Now, we don't have flying cars or hoverboards, but we certainly have video phones and screens just everywhere, instant communication. I'm pretty glad about the lack of hovering flying things because that sounds like an FAA and NTSB nightmare. But I am pretty disappointed that we also don't all dress in matching jumpsuits. Artists have been projecting the future for years, but they don't just presume things along linear time, they do it in linear space as well, creating art that depicts cultures all over the globe without actually knowing that much about those cultures. It's usually called art exoticism. For whatever reason, the Italians are particularly good at this. Puccini gave us the Orientalist operas Madame Butterfly and Turandot. The American West was particularly interesting too because we had Sergio Leone's spaghetti westerns like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and Once Upon a Time in the West. And given how beautiful Italy is, I'm astounded that any Italian would want to tell stories set anywhere else on the globe. You've got Rome, Venice, Tuscany, Sicily. The Pope lives there, for crying out loud. What do you need with 19th century geishas and cowboys? But maybe if you live in a place long enough, no matter how inspiring it may be, you're always looking for some other exotic locale. And now that we're a couple films into Lucio Fulci's oeuvre, I'm starting to see another Italian genius who wants to be anywhere but Florence or Milan or Corsica. In Fulci's Zombie 2, we saw him take on New York City and a fictional Caribbean island. And in this week's film, 1987's Ænigma, Fulci says, fuck the city, fuck China, fuck the Old West, fuck the beach. The most exotic and intriguing place on Earth is right here in goddamn Wellesley, Massachusetts. Now, this college is not Wellesley, but it's an all-girls college just outside of Boston. Of course, Fulci gets... 2 seconds. I'm listening to a dance party driving by.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
I can't hear anything.
Okay, it's probably not picking up. Of course, Fulci gets a lot wrong about the Boston area. For Jesus Christ, hold on. Right before this, by the way, I was having lunch across the street and I was waiting for a rug pad to be delivered. And I watched a UPS driver get out of his truck right in front of my building, walk to the building next door, put the rug pad down and leave. And I'm like, oh, maybe that's somebody else's. And then immediately my phone was like, bing, your Amazon delivery was completed.
You're like, you motherfucker.
And then he drove off. So
One star.
All right, let's try this again. Whoa.
That's okay. I'm listening to my upstairs neighbor child just like stomp on the floor. So exciting.
Apartment choice.
Yep.
Of course, Fulci gets a lot wrong about the Boston area. For instance, no one has the distinct Boston accent in this movie. Connor, Tina, Sean, get down to the Dunkin', we're doing shots. But some things he gets absolutely right. For instance, everyone's real mean, real cold, but fucking hilarious about it. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
What's your favorite piece of art exoticism that sort of imagines some other time, place, part of the world, but without like being supremely accurate about it?
Oh gosh. I don't know. Have I ever been anywhere? No, I don't know. I've never been anywhere before.
I kind of think about, I mean, I'm not a big Western guy. But every now and then I'll watch a Western and be like, this is pretty dope. But I've never just gotten into them. Like the spaghetti Westerns are really fun and sort of ridiculous. They kind of remind me of horror films because they feel completely implausible.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And silly. Like, I'm not talking about Brokeback Mountain here. I'm talking about bullshit like High Plains Drifter and that kind of Clint Eastwood sort of stuff. But yeah, I like that sort of thing. And I'm also like, I don't know, I couldn't help but to think about Lucio Fulci wanting to set all of his movies in some kind of exotic locale. And here he is being like, all girls school, let's do it.
Yeah, and it's so weird because this movie is so strangely dubbed in that you've got English, you've got American English speaking actors, you've got Italian speaking actors, but then it's all overdubbed in English anyway, so it doesn't really matter at all. And what they're saying to each other is so sometimes it's like everything as obscure as like an absurdist play to just what nonsense. But there are some really funny one-liners.
This movie is so silly that I talked about this a couple times in other movies that we've watched. Some of them fun, some of them bad. But it does feel like the script feels like kids playing with dolls. Like you're just making up dialogue along the way as it goes. Now, I almost did my intro about yacht rock.
Okay.
Because of the way that this movie opens.
Oh, yes.
With this yacht rock song that I tried looking up. Like, it's not, I was typing in the lyrics and all that kind of stuff. This isn't like Christopher Cross or anything like that.
What? You couldn't find Head Over Meals?
Is that the name of
by
the song?
Douglas Meakin? Did you catch that?
Mm.
It's called Head Over Heels, and it's head over heels, and it just won't stop. But it's misspelled in the credits to Head Over Meals.
No.
Yes, legit.
Well, it opens with "Put on your makeup, your eyes are blue enough."
Ew.
Ew, gross.
Enough for what? They out of a concentration camp?
Oh, it's creepy. Yeah, so I didn't really know much other than the one sentence blurb we read last week about what this movie was going to entail. It was vague. We knew all girls school.
Yeah.
We knew new student and creepy shit happens.
Something psychic. Something psychic.
Yeah, which is a pretty accurate summary of the plot of this film. So St. Mary's College, we start with a black and white photo of the class of St. Mary's College, Wellesley. Maybe this is in Natick. This is not as fancy as Wellesley. And,
I don't know. There's a lot of Porsches rolling around.
There is.
This movie.
And so we begin with Kathy. Kathy's getting her makeup on. Oh, very 80s, gold. Heavily painted gold.
Gold eyeshadow. Like the kind of gold eyeshadow that if you put it over your entire body, you would die. Because your skin wouldn't be able to breathe. But just a little bit is fine.
I worried about her skin being able to breathe with all the green makeup she has in the hospital during the course of this film.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Well, that's amazing looking. That special effect makeup. But this is like she's two of her friends are making her over, and she's got on a red slip, and they're trying to like hold up dresses in front of her saying, no, not that one. No, not that one. Yeah, the red one. The red on red. She's red on red on red.
Yes. And it's very much like your roommate and her gay best friend dressing her up is what's happening here. And that's Kathy and Tom.
And they give her like thumbs up. They're like, yeah, good luck. You're going to have a great night.
And Kathy has got a big date with her gym teacher, Fred.
The hairiest forearms in all of Boston.
He's listed, like they refer to him at one point in time as like their gym teacher.
Yes.
But the one time we see him in class, he's totally doing jazzercise. Like that's a dance studio.
Yeah. And he's not even doing that right.
What, you can't grab your students' asses in the middle of class?
Oh, I mean the jazzercise part he wasn't even doing right. It was really more just like flexing.
Yeah.
Just flex. This is not advanced Pilates. Sorry, that's down the hall.
Yeah. So Kathy's out on a date and Fred stops the car and it's like, let's not go to the show, baby. Let's stay here.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I've always wanted you, Fred. And she's like, I give it to me, big Fred, give it to me. And just all of this, just somebody who's so overeager to have sex with this giant block of meat.
Yeah. And not even have sex, Jeffrey. They're like not necking, but not necking isn't even it. They're just writhing on top of each other a little bit.
They're licking tongues at times.
They're licking areolas.
Lucio Fulci ever had sex? Because there's a sex scene later in this movie that makes no sense to me.
Jeffrey, has Lucio Fulci ever had sex? Has he ever been to a doctor? Has he ever used a defibrillator? Has he ever seen a snail? Has he ever been to New Orleans? Has Lucio Fulci ever seen an 18-year-old woman? Has he ever seen more than 18-year-old women and heard them speak? These are the questions I have.
That doctor uses a defibrillator like an iron, like he is like he is pressing his silk shirt.
Yep. It's like, it's not working. Well, you have to clear. No, this is not. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
We are.
So have you ever necked before, dear Lucio Fulci? Have you ever necked? Do you know that what no? Okay.
Mm-mm.
Wait, you're magnificent, Fred. Oh, Fred. I think she says marvelous at some point.
Oh my God.
Like, it's
hot pillow talk.
It's weird. And it's so weird that there's a speaker that has been planted in the car, and everyone else at the college, or at least like the sort of mean girls at the college, are in the bushes in their own cars listening to this play-by-play.
It's every other
Cracking
girl
up.
in the college because only 5 kids go here.
There's only 5 people at this fucking college. I always wonder about the other students, you know?
Yeah.
The other students that are like, because the shit that goes down at this college over the course of like one semester from like fall to December is massive. And I just wonder about the girls that are like, what? Oh, she's dead. Wait, she's in a coma? Wait, she's
5 kids dead in a week?
There's like, everyone's decapitated? I need to transfer the fuck out of here. UMass, here I come.
The other 80s thing that happens a lot in horror movies and in comedies too, but from that decade, everybody is so mean, like criminally mean.
Yeah.
Like if you're talking
and
about going
happy about it.
Oh, it's the worst. And so they basically, the other kids in the car turn on their headlights.
Yeah.
Kathy's like, oh no, I've been pranked, and starts running away in embarrassment.
Yeah.
And then they
chase her in their cars. Damn. And we're supposed to like these people? And these are the people that have like Snoopy Reed posters in their dorms.
Tom Cruise, Top Gun, Sylvester Stallone, Rocky.
I think Tom Cruise and Sylvester Stallone would probably approve of some bullying amongst colleagues, though.
They do seem kind of like they were probably.
They'd be like, yeah. But Snoopy,
no.
Snoopy's like, that Snoopy poster is real disappointed in you, ladies.
And they run her over, or they don't run her over. She keeps running, and she gets hit by another car.
Yes. Ends
up in ICU. She flatlines. Doctor has never used a
defibrillator.
Does
she? Jeffrey. Okay, I see you. Okay, the 80s meanness is a little bit tough to take, but I love the 80s technology. They've got like a Commodore 64 rigged up to an old Atari. And it's like, not even like, okay, I know this is ER, this is not.
No.
Right?
No.
Aaron Sorkin, this is not.
Mm-mm.
But they don't even know what the like boop 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 heartbeat of life.
Do they know that's even a heartbeat? They're just like brainwave activity. I'm like,
it's just like it's like a seismograph or something. And then it sort of stops. And then listen, I gotta say, the unsung hero of this entire fucking movie is this nurse.
Yeah.
I love this nurse so much. This is where my camp meter of like the monolith, the Italian, like, you know, like crusty old Italian filmmaker monolith, and like trying to imagine what girls at a like girls college would say is so dumb. And it all boils down to this fucking blonde nurse who I think has maybe 5 lines. She's usually asking the doctor what he's talking about, or she just turns to no one and says, I am afraid. to no one at all. No inflection.
No.
No, nope, no. Just I am afraid. Jeffrey, whenever you ask me for anything, you're like, hey, can you, send me that email? I'll just say, I am afraid. That's it. Apropos of nothing. But anyway, Miss I Am Afraid clocks. Oh my gosh. The EKG meter spectrometer Pong that we have hooked up to this girl has died. This girl is dead.
If you ever remember if you're our age and you remember the little handheld video game that was just LED lights that went across the screen, but it was football and you just had to move the light to dodge them all. That's the screen that we're seeing. That's the level of technology here. Well, we have a new kid arriving at St. Mary's College. This is Eva. Eva Gordon, I think is her last name.
Sure. She lies, though, about a lot of shit.
Of the Boston Gordons.
The Boston Gordon. Gordon's fishermen's. We're the fishermen. No, wait, skip something. So when Eva goes into her coma, even though she's brain dead, or Kathy, sorry. Mm-hmm. Kathy goes into her brain dead coma. She's dead. Or in a coma. Mm-hmm. Or something, because the doctor just gently rests paddles upon her chest and doesn't hit the engage button. But there is kind of a cool, you got to admit it, this is Lucio Fulci's last movie. And there are some really kind of cool filmmaking stuff going on here. Mm-hmm. So the camera sort of floats up to the ceiling and then floats up through the next level of the hospital, the next level, and the next level. And then there's an amazing model of the college and sort of downtown Boston, I guess. But you hear Kathy going, no, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And I think that's kind of cool. So we're like, okay, so we've got a spirit, an unhoused spirit in the ether.
Yeah.
And I was like, that great. That's an amazing storytelling way of doing this. Also, I miss models. I love miniature models.
Yeah, I do too.
And CGI kind of killed all of that, but that's okay. I can still find movies with cool, intricate, stupid little models.
I think I'm going to spend a lot of this episode laughing at a lot of the goofiness of this film, but please don't confuse that with me disliking it. Because I enjoyed almost every second of this movie. and
see, I'm similar, but I also was like, this is dumb.
It's so stupid.
There are moments where I was stupid. What am I even looking at? Or it takes them so long to pick up their cues in between, there's just so a pause you could drive a truck through. And I'm like, well, oh, look, this belly button lint I got. Oh, wait, there's a movie on. Oh, shit. I totally forgot there's a fucking movie happening.
That's really funny. Well, okay. So now we know that Kathy's spirit doesn't want to die, and she's kind of up in the ether. Now there is Eva Gordon arriving at St. Mary's, and there's
she's so 80s glamorous. She's like 80s penthouse glamorous.
Yeah, and I was gonna say more Playboy, because Penthouse is always done up a lot more, and I think the difference.
She's a little more fresh girl next door kind of Playboy. Yeah,
and I think
definitely not Hustler.
No, and the thing about the juxtaposition between Kathy and Eva is there's obviously a lot of physical differences, but Eva in this movie kind of carries herself with this effortless beauty.
Yeah.
Whereas the only real moment we see Kathy, it's this efforted beauty, heavy makeup, heavy rouge, heavy eyeshadow and
oh my god, her hair
putting on
is
a red dress,
fucking Italian football helmet.
Yeah. It's so much, and it's and so now she's embodied what I assume is a real woman named Eva Gordon.
Yes.
Somewhere in the world is now possessed by Kathy.
Sort of. Sometimes. It comes and goes.
I guess I don't fully know where Eva Gordon came from, if she was completely an illusion that everyone shared,
I
or
know,
if
right?
she was a real woman who had, her backstory is she's coming to St. Mary's because she had mental health issues
Yeah.
and needed a new start at a new school. So they're
In
like, sure,
possibly New
man.
Orleans.
Yeah, that she's from New
Maybe.
Orleans.
But it's and I think it's interesting because you have Kathy, who's this, like on the just sort of this ugly duckling, like everything about her is like the way they've done her up is weird,
Mhm.
and very jarring. But on the inside, she's like clearly this like very sensitive soul, and then you have Eva, who is like, sorority house leader,
Yeah.
but she's kind of rotten to the core on the inside.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is
Everyone
why,
kind of is,
well,
but
everyone
it's
kind of
yeah.
is, yeah. But it's
Well,
hard. It's so hard to tell because we they do this thing where they'll be like, as Eva's walking up the front steps of the college on her first dark and stormy night, just like in Suspiria, like it does that thing where it's like Eva, Kathy, Eva, Kathy, Eva, Kathy.
yeah.
So you're like, okay, so she is in her body.
Yeah.
I think
My
sometimes.
my theory is Eva Gordon's a real person, a real
Yeah.
woman who probably isn't a horrible person, and that
Yeah.
Kathy inhabits her, which is why Eva Gordon's
Yeah.
family is all from Boston, but she
Yeah.
keeps having all of this knowledge of New
Like,
Orleans and
I'm
very
from
little
Boston.
knowledge of
Yeah.
Boston.
Yeah.
And so that's why everyone's like, wait, you're from New Orleans too? Because that's where Kathy is from. I mean, I have family there. I went there as a kid.
Yeah, totally. My
Yeah.
grandmother. That's
That's
my
such a
favorite
good.
grandmother.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that sounds good.
So she gets to this school and she's going to be rooming with Jenny, who was
Okay.
Kathy's roommate.
Yeah.
And Jenny is much more like, also very like every girl in the school, super pretty, but Jenny is like the mousy one. She's
Yeah.
studious. We always see her studying. She was the one person who was like, y'all mistreated Kathy. Like,
Yes.
I heard about this
Yeah.
and was like, don't do that. That's so mean.
Like, she's not happy about being her roommate, but she is like, y'all should feel ashamed of yourself for
Yeah.
what you did to that girl.
Yeah.
But not so ashamed that she's still going to smoke pot with them.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
there's only 5 people at this goddamn college.
Yeah, you got to make friends where you can get them, man.
That's it.
I love this. Okay, when we talk about the dialogue in this movie, Eva tells Jenny, she says, let's get one thing straight, Jenny. For me, a successful year means making out with as many gorgeous boys as possible. He.
Yes.
Agreed.
It is. Sure. Yeah.
Intentions.
Listen,
set your intentions.
Setting your intentions, marking those intentions, and then later revisiting them to see if you did in fact make out with as many boys as possible. Did you succeed? YN.
Okay, so we're in jazzercise class at St. Mary's College.
God. No,
Fred,
just no.
I wrote
just no.
I wrote Fred teaching jazzercise, but I put teaching in quotation marks.
He's teaching, and by teaching, it's more of like he's just like putting his crotch into girls' faces. Or his butt into other girls' faces. But listen, he is on Eva like flies on shit.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the new girl's awful pretty. And I kind of like this. So, this is very much, you might notice, listeners, that this is essentially an Italian Carrie knockoff. Like you went to see Stephen King's Carrie, and that is Lacoste. You went to Lucio Fulci's Ænigma, and that is Alligator brand. Like the colors are all just a little weird. Mm-hmm. It's all just a little. So Eva she's going to eat the man. She's going to, man eater versus ladies man. Classic
lady killer v man eater. Yeah.
Who's gonna out sexy who here? And she secures a date with him later that night after.
I love that she says,
gone to bed.
"Oh, I think I pulled my hamstring. Can you give me a massage?"
Yeah, and he's like, I was she's like, get out of here, He's looking. She's a piece of work, this Eva.
she tells Jenny that she's gonna go see Fred that night, and Jenny tells her, she's like, well, you can't miss it. He's got a poster of the Incredible Hulk on his door.
Oh, Jesus
A
Christ.
plus character detail. A plus.
I love it. These characters are as thin as what posters are on the wall of their dorm.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. That's it.
Yep.
He's a tough guy.
Yeah. So she's we understand Fred has a dangerous reputation, and like the two adult men in this movie, both are predators of college girls.
Listen, we'll get to Dr. Anderson in a minute here.
Okay, so also there's a cleaning lady at the school, Mary, who turns out to be
Mary. Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary. She's got glowing red eyes. I don't think she has any dialogue in this movie, right?
No.
I don't think she ever speaks.
She kind of says like no, but it's almost implied like she's mute or probably not deaf, but like has a speech impediment, something like that.
Yeah.
But she don't fucking need to talk because she is gifted in the psychic arts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I guess it runs in the family because we learn at some point that this was Kathy's mom. Kathy's mom. Kathy's still on. I almost said on layaway.
Life support on layaway.
Life support.
She's on layaway. Only 5 more installments. And this psycho
$250,000 each.
Can be yours.
So I get the sense that Mary's glowing red eyes are another way that Kathy inhabits her. Like I think this is not Mary necessarily being this. It's Kathy entering bodies, because
like a weaker vessel. Like she sort of like gloms onto other people.
I think so. If that's true, I don't know why she doesn't inhabit, say, like Kim's body or
and
Grace's
just, like, walk
body.
her, and like just walk her off a roof or something.
Yeah, or the teacher or whatever. But so Fred's trying to run Mary out of there because he's trying to get it on with one of his students.
Yes.
The brand new student, the one who is checking into the school because she's had a mental health crisis and needs a new beginning.
Yes.
So what better way to manage that than to sleep with the fucking ribeye jazzercise instructor?
That's right. Who I love it. He's like, who does spend a full 5 minutes just sort of like checking out his guns in the mirror. But like not even like a bodybuilder, almost more of a like, I feel satisfied with my It's very strange, y'all. It's so weird. Very strange.
It's kids playing with dolls. That's every plot moment in this movie is kids playing with dolls.
I'm big and muscly.
Women love this.
They love it. Get out of here, Mary. I've got a date in 5 minutes. Get out. But he hears a noise from the corner. Mary forgot her bucket, and the bucket's not where he put it. And then we get some like Evil Dead Army of Darkness shit in which evil Fred
in the mirror
pops out and strangles Fred to death. I'm good Ash. I'm bad Ash. Little goody two shoes. Little goody two shoes.
Can I tell you who the unsung hero of this movie is for me?
Who?
It's the inspector.
Oh my God, so good,
I think this is Lucio Fulci who plays the inspector.
I think you're right.
He only shows up in this one scene, but his imprint is throughout the film because every death is explained away. So just imagine big beefcake Fred. Imagine his doppelganger. Shatters a mirror, grabs him, and chokes him to death with the forearm. The inspector comes and says, "Well, he had a heart attack."
Well, you know, it's like the guy who invented jogging. He died.
Unbelievable.
You know how these macho types are, Jeffrey? They're so healthy that they actually become unhealthy, and then they just drop dead one day.
It's a sign that you've died of a heart attack that you have like giant bruising around your neck.
Sometimes. If, you died of a heart attack while autoerotically asphyxiating yourself.
Sure. Maybe he was doing that.
Maybe.
So And our nurse back at the hospital, she's noticing kind of simultaneous to the end of the scene, she's noticing that Kathy's stats, I think she says stats, don't make any sense. She has no brain activity because the beep boop machine is not beep booping right.
No.
But she's having violent emotions. How they know that, I don't know.
I'm sorry. What computer do we use to measure that?
Well, you can just eyeball it because all Kathy does in bed is
I know, she literally cracks a smile and goes, The nurse doesn't notice that, though.
It's so
which is
good.
why the nurse is my favorite. She is the best. She's like, I think something's wrong. The corpse seems to be laughing. Maybe I should get the doctor.
You know, I'm now just thinking of this, and we did miss an opportunity in the early 90s to do this, but I think a full remake of this film starring only the kids in the hall would have been tremendous, because this does feel like a 90-minute Kids in the Hall sketch.
Kids in the Hall or League of Gentlemen.
Sure.
Which is another like when horror and comedy combine, but British style as opposed to Canadian style.
Okay, so now we've got all the girls in Jenny and Eva's dorm room.
Fred is dead. Did you hear about Fred? Fred is dead. His Fred is dead. His Fred. This is just really
Who's
just
Fred,
a
baby? Fred's dead, baby. Fred's dead.
Fred's dead, baby. Fred's dead.
So they're passing a Marlboro around the room like it's a joint, which I love.
You see that girl roll that joint.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, no, that's a proper joint. Like you do
that
see
is, okay.
And it's really funny. This was the scene in which I was playing Who's Speaking English? Or no. Who is most comfortable speaking English? Because it's like I think the girl who rolls it, I can't remember which one. She actually like tells a joke. About, she's the one who's like, oh, maybe she's a vampire. And I was like, okay, you are definitely American.
Yeah.
You are not. But you definitely got the dubbing award for this insane shit show of a dubbed film.
Okay, so a couple of these college women are, Kim feels kind of the leader of the pack.
Yeah.
She was the one dressing Kathy at the beginning.
Yeah.
We also have Virginia and Virginia and Grace.
Jenny?
And then Jenny is our kind of mousy roommate.
Oh, that's right. Right.
But Virginia and Grace are the two kind of
followers.
Kind of bitchy girls that run together, really.
Yeah.
But Virginia says out loud in front of Eva, who is Kathy, Virginia's like, I can't believe that Fred's dead and that bitch, meaning Kathy, is still alive.
You're like, she is in a coma. Oh my God. She was like, yeah, Fred was feeling really bad about what we did and like wanted to go visit her.
There's also this weird, I wrote it down, but I don't remember the context of the moment that this happens in. But there's this moment wherein Mary, the cleaning lady, suddenly pops up and hands Virginia like a platter full of fucking garlic snails, just like escargot. But not escargot, they're like long.
But not escargot, they're slugs. Those are slugs, Jeffrey. Like, if you cook snails, you cook them in the shell.
Yeah.
That's like the whole thing. Those are straight up garden slugs. Listen, so checks out Boston food, like pretty much on par for most meals that I've had in Boston. Oh, sorry to be dunking on Boston.
It's just snail sticks. It's their famous dish.
Yeah, it's this begins the arc of the strangest. We had the arc of the Covenant. This is the arc of the strangest arc of this film, which is the death of poor Virginia, I believe. Yeah,
She
Virginia
has,
can't handle the snails. She doesn't want the snails for lunch.
no, she's grossed out by the snails. And then she is at night, she goes to her bedroom and there's snails in her bed and she runs
Bum, bum,
screaming.
bum.
But when she shows the teacher, not headmistress, but
Yeah.
lady in charge of shit, there's she's like, the bed's fine. But there is
Oh,
one
no.
on her
This-
Rocky poster.
Just crawling up Rocky Balboa. Classic. If you know, you know. Yeah, but she does accuse Mary of it, and Mary's like, no, no, no. Snails are gone. So strange, right?
And then we get the nighttime scene, which is the
Oh, man.
weirdest. So many of like 80s horror films, especially like Italian horror films from this era, it's going to be like very sexy women dying. And a classic giallo thing is like just gorgeous women, naked, lots of blood.
It's an excuse for boobs, colored lights,
Mm-hmm.
and
It's
and
giallo.
that's it.
Giallo is like death is fashion show, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
this is like the gothy version of it.
This is
It's
the
like,
the goth performance art.
yeah. So we've got naked lady with close-ups of like slugs, all those snails all over her tits and down her legs and body and face
and then the snails sort of start to like cling to each other
Mhm.
and then they sort of amass and then she's gone.
Cecil, if I was like a Scream style slasher, ghost face killer, right?
Okay, yes.
And I came to you and you're lying in bed and I hold a
I'm
knife
lying in bed,
above
looking
you.
all sexy. Are my tits out?
Yeah, your tits are out and I'm holding
Great.
a
Okay,
knife
cool.
over you.
And
I say, I'm gonna knife you. I'm gonna kill you. Here comes the knife, and I just start slowly lowering it.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Well, I would be panicked in fear, and I would just go, no, no, no,
and you would just and then just let it slowly pierce you.
Pretty much still, but enough that you can really just do what you're going to do.
That's the correct answer because that's what Virginia does, which is I'm covered in snails. They're crawling into my mouth.
Yes.
I'm not going to do shit about that.
I'm not going to go to the bathroom. I don't have a roommate either who is definitely not hearing any of this.
No.
I'm not going to sit up, get a glass of water. No.
You're not going to
no.
Taylor Swift, Shake It Off. The song about spiders also applies to slugs.
Yes. I was once attacked by acid ants in the jungle.
Oh, you told me this. The because they have so much formic acid or whatever that
they like secrete acid that literally it burns anything that they touch.
Carpet
so they don't
ants,
bite
right?
you.
The carpet ants?
Yep. And because it's like a carpet moving through the jungle.
Yeah.
And I did a very bad Scream Queen death. And I, in fact, I did not scream at all, which is surprising. But I put my feet in the sink to wash them off. Another potential option for Virginia here, but no, she just sort of decomposes.
Yeah.
Into her bed. And then the snails peacefully disperse.
Yeah. And the inspector says, I'm guessing she just choked herself with her own pillow. That is the report of how Virginia died.
Dear Lucio Fulci, have you ever seen a pillow? What? Huh? Have you ever read a police report?
Unbelievable.
And of course we have Kathy, in her psychic deathbed just going yeah. And I think this one I think it's Virginia. Yeah, where it's like her name just like mysteriously disappears from the door. Like Kathy's got a fucking list and she is ticking off names.
Yep.
So it's a little Kill Bill as well in there for you too.
A common note I wrote in watching this movie was face acting. Lots of just close up and just expressions.
Just make faces, not choices. That's what we say. You're not trying to achieve anything. You're not trying to get anything, and you're certainly not using whatever your scene partner's giving you. Oh, dear me, no. Your job is to make as many interesting, outlandish faces as you possibly can. And when in doubt, just run through, just stand there and look at yourself in the mirror, which a lot of people do in this movie.
Yeah. This for the poster, one of the things that drew us to this film was the poster art. And the poster art's fantastic. You know, you should go to Just Watch,
very
look
high
up Ænigma.
80s.
It's so good.
Like, it reminds me a lot of like the Conan the Barbarian art of the 70s, and like, you know, like it's that classic like painted it's great.
Yeah, it's so good. I will say there's surprisingly little Medusa and titties in this movie for what that poster art kind of there's both.
We've got both, and Kathy, listen, as weak as a lot of the stuff is, Kathy's like psychic deathbed Medusa look is pretty fucking dope.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Like she's, it's, you know, like if you have a fear of medical stuff or tubes or wires or things like that, this is otherworldly.
Yeah. I also, in addition to the face acting, there's a couple of good moments of like physical acting. Physical comedy, we might even call it.
Sure.
Is there a word for unintentional physical comedy?
Camp.
Yes. After we learn of the death of Virginia, like Eva, I think what Eva's doing here, her goal is to act sad, like rageful, to be upset that this poor girl died.
Yeah.
And she just goes, she starts like throwing things at her roommate, Jenny. She just goes ape shit in her dorm room. And then she flops down back first onto her bed and starts writhing like she's having the big O. Like, it's wild, this scene.
But see, I thought that was Kathy doing that to her.
Okay.
Because Kathy, because Eva's got like a shirt or something. And she's not attacking her roommate. She's just trashing the room. But it almost looks like she's trying to shoo something away. Like there's a bee in the room. Like there's an invisible bee in the room. And Eva is trying to like, but her roommate's like, why are you attacking me? But she's kind of just trashing everything. And then she does convolutions.
So this is actual Eva, the real Eva Gordon, battling for space in the body with Kathy.
That's how I read it.
Interesting.
Because like it's a little bit question mark.
Well, it's there for plot reasons because we've got to get Dr. Anderson, neurologist, to come check her out.
Do we? Must we? Okay. I love Dr. Anderson because in a world pre-cell phone, this is the most connected man in all of Boston. He knows about shit like the minute it happens. They're like, somebody died at the college, and here we are exactly 3 seconds later. Look, her EKG meter is off the chart. Like, this is the most well-informed man ever. He knows everything that is going on everywhere.
Well, he definitely knows where the pretty girls with mental health issues are.
Yes.
And that's at St. Mary's College.
Yep.
And he arrives to, I don't know, do what? Like, I'm never quite certain what a neurologist's job involves. I feel like there's some technique to it. I feel like,
Well, he just brought his aspirin. he brought a stethoscope. Oh my God. When he's like, I think it's not him. I think it's somebody else. When Fred dies, it's like putting a stethoscope on Fred's dead body and like nowhere near the heart, like clavicle, armpit, nipple. I was like, okay,
yeah. There's no pulse in his butthole.
But what? What is going on here? But yeah, he comes in and he's like, I hear there's a vulnerable 19-year-old woman that I can revive to health or something. Never mind, we're not calling parents. No parents are ever called over the course of this movie. There's no There's no counseling. There's no nothing. Nope.
No.
We just call in Dr. Anderson.
Oh my God. It's so weird, this obsession with 40-year-old man needing to be with 19-year-old girl.
Italian.
Yeah, it's so Italian.
Sorry. I am Catholic Italian.
Well, she immediately like sits up in bed and starts making out with him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really resist. He's like, wow, well, that was surprising. I guess you're all better now.
Oh, I guess that's my payment. But again, it's very difficult to tell if it's Eva or Kathy.
Yeah.
Because we know Eva loves the guys, so it's probably Eva. But there are times when I do kind of suspect Kathy might be in there as well.
I think, in my head, it was mostly, my headcanon is that it's mostly Kathy in there. Only because of the fact that, like, when we meet Kathy, she is so like starved for sexual contact, and that's such a big 80s trope of the virgin who has to have sex.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that was the thing, was she basically got bullied almost literally to brain death.
Yeah.
By kids before she got to do this. So now she's in a perfectly beautiful woman's body who gets all of the free passes. You get the free pass from men, you get the free pass from the teachers, you get the free pass from the other girls, that they're not going to make fun of somebody who's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I get the sense that was kind of the deal. But Dr. Anderson, Robert, don't call me Bob, and Robert and Eva are like making out in his car, like right on the front steps of St. Mary's College.
Like in front of the school, which... Okay. Yeah, cool. Subtlety.
And nobody at the school is like, I don't think we should hire him anymore to deal with our students.
I don't understand why we have a neurologist coming over to look at a girl who's having epileptic fits or whatever, or like, like behavioral issues.
Yeah,
But listen, hey, it's Boston. Everybody's a doctor. Everybody's a doctor, a lawyer, or in finance.
That's right. You can get all three at the Duncan.
That's it.
So there's also this moment in the car where she points out Grace to Dr. Anderson, and she's like, she's the bitchiest girl in our class. And all I could think was, I understand the allure of being like, if you're 40 and you find a 19-year-old attractive, I understand this vibe because you're fed images of young women all the time.
Sure.
And so you're like, this girl is so beautiful. Wouldn't it be great to be with her?
Youth and beauty.
This is the moment where you realize like a 21-year difference is untenable.
Yeah, you're like,
because your interests at age
class.
19.
I went through I have a mortgage.
I'm not talking about this shit.
I'm not putting up with the bitchiest girl in your... Never mind the fact that like you're now jealous of me looking at the bitchiest... No, not at all.
We are in very different places in our lives, Eva Gordon.
Yeah.
Okay, but I do love what Eva does next, which is she goes and sits next to Grace on the bench and just looks right at her and then just starts shaking her head. And then walks off.
I'm coming for you. Man, people were mean in the 80s. Like, this generation just can't understand.
No, it's so weird, right? So they go.
I think it's because there's no one watching ever.
Yeah.
That feeling of like, oh, I can say whatever the fuck I want, or there's no oversight.
Yeah. But also like boomers as kids, like that generation in the 60s, people coming about as teenagers in the late 60s and 70s, and on into the 80s, the early Gen X groups too. It's like we were dealing with the first kind of generations of kids that were sort of left up to their own devices, that started having their own income. You know, they weren't working family farms. They could go work at the movie theater or at the mall or do whatever. And they started being able to say, we can get our own, we can drive cars and go places. And their families had money from the pre-war generations. And so they're out and about just acting like adults, but with kid brains.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. It all kind of goes unchecked. And by the 80s, we're really starting to recognize in horror, especially, I think was the first to really point this out of this is bad. Like we need killers. We need Jasons and Freddys to come murder these dumbass kids who are so mean.
Because like the, you know, in other film equivalents, it's sort of the John Hughes, you know, like this is the same era of like the, you know, like the nice guy, the nice girl kind of gets steamrolled, but the mean popular kids are like, that's who you really want to, those they run the school. Meaner is better, says the 80s.
We also in the 80s had Ronald Reagan as president, right? Like meaner is better. Like we celebrated the way he talked about, Russia, the way he talked about people dying of AIDS. The way we talked about prisoners or people on welfare. Like he was such a mean person, but he was so popular.
But you know, but moneyed and classy in the way he did it.
It's totally it. Well, at the museum, they're on a field trip to the museum.
Sure. Again, some amazing incidental dialogue. Like one of the women, you know, like one of the female teachers is just like, and the light represents poetry and the dark is music. And right this way, students. I was like, what did that woman just fucking say? They're in a room full of plants. What is happening? This is where like filmmaking gets wild. Not only is it head over meals, like there's misspellings in the credits, but like this is very clearly the same set used over and over and over and over. Like it's the same St. Mary's College, but now they've just sort of pushed the furniture up against the walls. I love it.
Well, after the museum trip, Grace is like, oh, I've lost my earring. I really love this.
Is this before or after she has like a religious experience?
After, like when they're at the museum, she stops and there's a painting, a mural on the ceiling.
Some Italian, some very Italian-y, but it's like Rape of the Sabine Women. So it's very violent, this painting, but classical. And
there's a scene where all of the girls have gotten out of the van to go back into the school after their field trip, but Eva is staying behind and sneaking a smoke inside the van. I'm like, who are you fooling? The driver is still up front.
There. Oh my God. But oh no, I've lost my earring.
Yeah.
It's my mom's earring. My mom gave me this earring. She'll kill me if I lose this earring.
So Eva's like, well, I'll help you sneak into the museum. And they do. They sneak into the bathroom.
And again, I'm like, how much is it Eva? Or is it, I think this is Kathy. That's like, I totally saw you enter the museum with both. And I saw you leave with one. And I thought, oh, how cool, how chic. She's wearing one earring.
Yeah. When I say Eva, I definitely mean Eva as inhabited by Kathy. But yeah, who knows? Like, it's so unclear. But they sneak in and Grace is walking around looking for things, and Eva is like, here, I'll run ahead. Which I love because it's the classic horror trope of separating, but she's doing it intentionally to make Grace more scared. And Eva literally vanishes into thin air.
Literally disapparates. Like into vapor. Well, your friend is gone, girl. You're on your own.
Grace finds herself staring at this ceiling painting again. And at one point in time, there's a knife in the painting. And it animates and it cuts the other hand across from it off, and a real bloody hand falls to the floor. And then blood starts pouring out of this person's face on the painting.
It's like a baby head.
Now, Cecil, let's say you're sitting at your desk recording a podcast.
Okay, great.
And you feel something drip on your head, and you look up and you see it's a ceiling leak.
Okay, sure.
And it's just dribbling. And it's not just a ceiling leak, but like blood is dripping
Oh,
down
okay.
onto your head.
Sure.
Do you A, get up, put a bucket down, and then call your landlord?
Sure.
Or B, do you just keep staring upward into it and let it hit your face?
I would say B, with the additional option of also having like some sort of chanting.
Yep.
Maybe some sort of like intoning. I don't know, like some sort of, you know, hypnotic, something like maybe speaking in tongues, perhaps.
Good answer. A+ to you. You're passing the class.
Yeah.
Well, then the blood stops, and now she's running through the
museum. She's totally fine.
She's totally fine. There's no blood on her face. The painting's not bleeding. She's running through the museum. She finds bones.
But they put like sheets over everything at night in the museum. No, they don't. Mr. Fulci. Have you ever been to a museum? If an object like an arrowhead or anything it's in a case, a glass case, I guess you don't have to cover the cover.
You don't.
But she's just like pulling, you know, but it's so much more dramatic when you pull sheets off of things, and there's like skeletons in the art museum.
Sure. Yeah. There's a Perseus and Medusa statue.
Yes.
Where he's holding up the severed head of Medusa by her snake hair. And then suddenly the Medusa head turns into Kathy's head.
That's actually pretty dope.
It's really cool. And then there's a snake that's real life, but then it turns back into a statue.
But the snake is like the happiest snake ever. Like the snake is like the most least aggressive I think I've seen out of. It's almost as aggressive as those snails.
Also, I think this is a constrictor, this snake.
Yeah,
so it's not like it can do just a whole lot to you.
No, this snake is made. It's like the Cadillac Coupe de Ville of snakes. Like this is made to cruise, and that's about it. It's like maybe get a burger at the end of the day. That's it.
Yeah.
The snake is chill.
Well, suddenly there's some big muscly man statue that comes to life.
That looks like a pugilist boxer.
It
sort of.
Yeah, that's kind of it. And it does the same thing that the Fred doppelganger does to Fred, which is to grab her from behind and choke her. And did I read this right? Did I see this right? That it like popped her head off, squeezing her so hard? Is that what happened there?
I can't recall, Jeffrey. I actually don't remember. I was more into what we do have a beheading, but that's later. But it essentially chokes her out and then collapses to the floor. Because what'll happen is the inspector will be like, well, she snuck into the museum and toppled a 7-ton statue onto herself. On top of herself. But let's cut back to my favorite character, which is the nurse, who is now seeing into the pupils of Kathy's eyes and can see the girl being strangled by the statue inside of his eyes. And then what does she say?
I'm afraid.
I am afraid. Amazing.
So Eva goes to talk to the headmistress et al. And I love this because they're just like, oh, don't worry about it. You shouldn't feel bad. You know, it just happens. What? You're cool. You can skip class tomorrow. No worries.
Good. We've only had one girl in a coma. One girl is suffocated herself with her own pillow. Our gym teacher had a heart attack. And now I think your roommate is crushed by a sculpture. So pretty typical fresher week.
Yeah, totally.
Totally normal freshman orientation. Put a condom on a banana, ready to go.
Then she pops into her room where Jenny is and immediately says, "You're such a bitch." And Jenny's like, "What have I done?"
The fuck?
And she's like, "I don't know. You just are."
And then just walks away. I love it.
Oh,
You're right. It is like watching like a 55-year-old Italian man play with Barbie dolls and be like, "You're a bitch, huh? What? I don't know. Bye."
So they get Dr. Anderson back on the horn and we're like, listen, Ava needs to be under your strict care. I know that every person at this university has seen you making out with her. But maybe that'll be good for her. Maybe you should come down and see her. So he does, shows up at her room with Jenny right there, roommate Jenny in the room.
So
they're like
odd.
making out. Eva's like,
no,
no.
Oh,
yeah.
Eva is aggressively kissing Dr. Anderson. Like this is not a 1-to-1.
He's like, I can't breathe. You're kissing me so hard.
He's like, you're giving me face rash. But that doesn't exactly get him out the door. Meanwhile, Jenny is like just sort of going, he's like 50 years old. He probably has a house you could go to.
Yeah.
As opposed to doing this in this stinky dorm room while I'm trying to study for my chem exam.
I'm trying to fathom the nightmare of being in your 40s and dating a 19 or 20-year-old and just thinking about that, which is, why are you going to the dorms?
Yeah.
It's just horrifying. Like, it's so weird. I cannot piece any of this together. Okay.
But this relationship is getting very one-sided, but is still very aggressively hot and heavy, right?
So, as long as I can remember, since I've had any kind of like sexual desires in my life, I've mostly just been attracted to people of the opposite sex.
Okay.
I've sometimes done physical things with people of the opposite sex. And then I watched this movie. I'm 48 years old. And I watched this scene where Robert dreams of having Skinamax level sex with Eva.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I'm like, have I been doing straight sex wrong? I'm going to ask my friend Cecil. What? Is this how straight sex is supposed to be done? Because I've never seen anything like this.
As I understand it, as a devout homosexual, straight sex involves a lot of like baby oil. Like the oily you are, the more oiled up you are, the better.
Hold on, I'm getting a pencil out.
Okay, good. Right, you should write this down. You should have no furniture except the bed in whatever room you're going to have sex in. That is very important. It must be just a bed. No bed sheets, nothing. Just pretty much just think a mattress, right? That's probably the best way to go. And there has to be like really harsh fluorescent or neon lights, like streaming in patterns, or like making some sort of like, so it's kind of like a disco show, because that'll make your oiled up bottoms look very attractive to each other.
Okay. Now, in terms of like where legs go, I was under the impression that typically, if anyone's going to put legs around the other person, that the woman
no. You actually You, like, think of yourself like almost like a doll. Like you're just gonna put them on, like you're just gonna smush them together like a sandwich. So like imagine, so you're a piece of bread, and the person you want to have sex with is another piece of bread. And in between is the sex, and that's how you make a sex sandwich.
This has been my problem. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna try this now.
I think you were doing too much. You just need to let it like relax a bit.
Okay, yeah, the sandwich technique. I'm gonna
and then oil. Oil,
neon lights,
neon lights
technique.
Yep, and then and then try the salamander, which is where you just sort of like wiggle side to side on top of each other. This one is gay or straight. That's bi.
Perfect.
Like that. I think the salamander really works for everybody.
Okay. Perfect. Well, that's what they're doing, is this perfect rendition of straight people's sex.
Perfectly. Yes.
And then she starts scratching his belly and blood streaks are showing up. Then she chews his nipples off.
Yes.
Next level,
man.
leans down to kiss him and just spits them into his mouth.
Oh,
okay. Now I've done this before.
That's a classic Spokane omelet. You've never had a Spokane omelet? You've heard of a Denver omelet, haven't you?
The Spokane omelet is much harsher. Listen, I'm not a big fan of green peppers in my omelet, but I also don't love like chewed up nipples in my mouth either.
I don't even like button mushrooms in my omelet, so fucking nipples, that's beyond the pale. You can only do it once though, per person. It's like a one-time only ticket. Because once those nipples go, they're gone.
They are. Oh my god. Okay. So
but then he wakes up. He wakes up. Oh my gosh, it was all a dream.
It was all a dream. And obviously this is a reasonable anxiety dream to have because
yes,
she's psychotic toward him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he gets back to St. Mary's and he learns from Jenny and from the teacher lady that, hey, Eva's mother showed up and took her home because
to
the
New
day
Orleans
before,
or possibly Boston.
The day before, the whole staff was like, you've been through so much, your friend is dead, and just take some time to yourself. And then the next day they're like, you've got to come get this girl out of here.
Yeah, that's right. They're like, please.
And so Eva goes back to some like psych ward in Charleston.
Sure.
I don't know, or to New Orleans or wherever.
Question mark. She's in the bell jar, as far as we know.
At first, whatever reason, Kathy can only inhabit her because Kathy is now sending these crazy, or maybe this is Eva. I don't know.
I think, yeah, unclear. But listen, the letter she writes, you know what is kind of lost in this world of technology? The epistle, like the letter, the sort of the having to pour your thoughts and hearts out onto the page, knowing that weeks and weeks later the person who's intended to read it will that's the only communication. Like, we're so kind of spoiled with the instantness of communication now. But this letter she writes is like straight up Fatal Attraction.
Yeah.
Like, the more I'm away from you, the more I think about you. You are the only one for it's wild.
At one point she's like, they keep trying to give me medications and I won't take them because it clouds my mind from you. I can't think of you straight when they give me my meds. I'm like, oh no.
Oh wow. Okay. And what I love, this is actually pretty fucking good storytelling here, is this insane, like crazy over the top letter set to really happy elevator music as Dr. Anderson and Jenny naturally come together. It's like Jenny's in the park and then Dr. Anderson drives his car by and he waves and she waves, and then it cuts to they're like out seeing a movie together, and then it cuts to them like sharing a milkshake in a very you get the feeling that this is the girl that he wanted to be with the whole time, if she wasn't a sophomore or a freshman in college or whatever. I
mean, because she's a sophomore or freshman in college,
excuse me. But he got distracted by sex crazed, demon possessed Eva, and she was just too much.
Having said that, I don't approve of this man being anywhere near any educational institute because of his record with women. If he's going to date a 19-year-old, though, Jenny is the clearly better option.
Yes.
For just sheer mental stability.
Yeah, maybe.
She strikes me as way more emotionally mature. She may not be a perfect human being, but
you actually see her doing homework.
Yes.
Which is a step in the right direction of reality in this fucking film.
Well, and also he brings her up to his office and then they get real flirty and they start to do it. But then she says, I actually can't. I keep thinking about Kathy and what happened to her, and with her here, this isn't the right place.
This whole guilt thing,
emotional maturity, just
remember
you're
when
not smothering me.
We like bullied that girl almost to death. I kind of feel what's that word? Bad about it? It's almost like I feel bad. But that Brill cream in your hair is so sexy.
Yeah. Well, there is a scene where they finally have a moment to start making out. And Kathy's eyes in the ICU open wide.
Yeah.
Also, we cut to Eva in her mental institute.
Yeah,
her
I think
eyes
she's like
get wide open.
she's like in an institution somewhere.
And they know instantly he's with Jenny.
Yes.
And Eva fucking busts out of that hospital. I don't know where she is. Miami,
how
of New Orleans.
I just love
Reno.
the fact that she's wearing all black is really all you need to know. She is like fashion. She has showed up appropriately dressed to be the evil, kind of our evil, like, what's the opposite of a final girl? What happens when it's like a lady killer and like the final girl is the killer?
Yeah.
I don't know. But she is tricked out in villainry.
Yeah.
And
before she does anything, she goes to see Mom. She goes to see Mary, the cleaning lady. So I'm assuming this is Kathy inhabiting Eva, breaking her out of the hospital.
Yes.
Getting her back to Boston or near Boston. And
their eyes kind of glow. And
their eyes glow.
Kind of glow. It's actually quite sweet. And like Mary, who is this like, there's a thing with Italians, especially like Dario Argento, of like people with, either not like mental disorders, but also the sort of the gifted, like people with gifts, people like otherworldly gifts. And there is kind of a moment where the character like Mary, who is, mute or like maybe not all there, but in this moment she sees Eva and goes, my daughter, and like recognizes her daughter's spirit. And it's actually quite touching.
It is actually.
Like, because you think about, okay, so we're watching the Carrie knockoff, right? And so in Carrie, it's like the mother that is like the first bully in Carrie's life. And here, poor Kathy's mom is just like, I don't know, I'm literally a janitor of a college. I'm getting you a college education because we can afford it because I work here. The kids tortured you into a coma. And now I'm supporting you in your goal of killing them one by one. Honestly, parent of the year.
Well, back at Robert's office, this is where Jenny is like, I should go home. He's like, let me give you a ride. She says, no, it's not far. I'll walk home. Uh-oh. But before we even get to Jenny, we have to go deal with Kim and Tom, the last sets of bullies.
Amazing. This is my favorite.
Kim and Tom are doing it, and then they get done doing it, and Kim goes to take a shower, and then she comes back, and Tom, you're so silly. You're already asleep. Wake up, Tom. Pulls the covers back. Tom has no head.
Tom has no head.
It's just blood splatter where a head is supposed to be.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. She runs to another room. It's another headless Tom.
Another headless
door, a room with a headless Tom.
So you're like, is everyone dead? Is this just a vision? Because we know that people have had visions of horror in the past. What I kind of find odd is that they have hairy necks. Did you notice this?
Yes, because when we do,
I'm not crazy,
Tom,
right?
Tom has no beard.
He has no beard, and so like imagine like a neck hole, like this, like your wrist, right?
Yeah.
Like if you cut off your hand, and it's that, right? But there's like black hair around it, as if he had like a neck beard, and he is a blonde dude.
This is, like you said about the set design, this is just some other set that we got cheap. This was a piece of special effects that was donated.
Like, very strange.
Yeah.
So, but I was like, why is there pubic hair in their neck? What is happening?
Well, that's where the pubic hair starts growing, and it goes
The pubis,
down
yep.
through your
This is the
chest cavity and
Uh-huh.
into your pubic regions.
Listen, I gotta say, I went to a theme park a few weeks back, and
Mhm.
I have not seen so many unironic neck beards. Like nothing on the cheeks, only on the neck. So I think Lucio Fulci has been to Carowinds in South and North Carolina.
Well, she keeps running and screaming, and she gets to the window and she hears a voice being like, Kim, come to me, come to me. And she's in the window and she
Yes.
turns around, sees her Tom Cruise Top Gun poster on the wall. Tom Cruise turns into Kathy, and Kim, justifiably so, is so frightened that she falls out of the window and dies.
Plummets to her, jumps to her death. Now, and then, and of course, Tom shows up. He's been in the shitter the whole time, dropping a deuce, not hearing any of the screaming. And he's like, what is going on? And he looks out the window, and enough, like, as he does, a shutter decapitates him.
Yep.
And actually, this is kind of a beautiful image. So it's like Kim in her like pink nightgown kind of thing on like, and it's like Pepto-Bismol pink.
Yeah.
On the grass, she's all like laid out like the cover of Vogue, and Tom, who was one of the bullies in the beginning, who, remember, put on your makeup, your eyes look so blue.
I'm sorry,
even the Goyim can.
It's pronounced
down with
put
it.
on your makeup. Your eyes are blue enough.
Your eyes are blue enough. Your eyes are blue enough to pass. But this is kind of an amazing image. And when we talk about Giallo, we talk about like death as fashion.
Yeah.
This is an image for me. I'm actually looking at the IMDb page right now, and under Kim Wilkins, Sophie d'Aulon, like this is her image, is this like this death image, and it's gorgeous. It looks like Italian Vogue. It's like legs, she's kind of in a crucifix kind of thing, and then when the head falls, it's his head, and it almost looks like an inverse set, like a gender swap of Perseus and Medusa.
Yeah, I loved it.
Bitch, I can find some deep ass themes in even the shittiest of movies.
Also, the way his head falls, because it's an overhead shot, and the way it falls, it hits the ground and rolls slightly, perfectly face up. And I imagine, did they do this with reverse filming? Did they like
just waited? I think they must have weighted it in such a way that they knew it would kind of roll.
It would kind of bobble up like that.
Yeah.
It's great. It's such a great scene. Okay, so I was really thrown off by this misdirect when Jenny leaves the hospital, does the classic horror thing of like, no, you don't have to drive me, I'll walk. Okay, well, you're gonna get fucked up on this walk. Yeah. Well, she manages to get all the way back to her dorm, and then it's like, I should go back to the hospital. I'm like, why did she ever leave the hospital in the first place?
What? And then we have this whole thing of her trying to like talk her way back in. She's like, hi, I'm here to see Dr. Anderson. And like, you want to talk about the worst bit part acting award?
The security guard.
After the nurse. Is this guy who's like, well, they're all after Dr. Anderson tonight. You know the way, don't you? I was like, ew, what the fuck? Creepy. She's like, yeah, I guess I do. So are you gonna sign me in or what? Creepo.
Well, she gets into the hospital, but then I think through Kathy mind games, she's getting lost in the maze of the hospital.
Jeffrey, I was so stoned at this point. Okay. I was like, what is like the least scary thing on earth? I was packing a bowl because the least scary thing on earth is just watching someone like enter and exit an elevator like 7 or 8 times, just looking at signs, looking down halls, getting in an elevator, getting out of an like it's very strange and a little bit boring. I was like, okay, whenever we pick up the plot again, I'll get back on board.
A lot of face acting, a lot of just cameras showing doors opening.
Like she's in maternity. She's in the burn ward. She's in the basement. I don't know what's happening here.
Well, she ends up in the morgue, and okay.
What? But how would you describe the morgue, Jeffrey?
Well, let me describe the rest of the hospital.
Sure.
Imagine, okay, what I want you to do, if you haven't seen this movie, close your eyes and imagine a hospital.
Okay, great.
That's exactly what this place looks like.
Yes, very much
Now,
so.
to imagine the morgue part of the hospital, I want you to close your eyes, and I just want you to imagine just slabs of like brownish marble. Just walls, floors, slab tables made of marble.
Like this is a morgue for like H.P. Lovecraft.
Yes.
Or some very high functioning rich Satanist out in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very confused. I was like, where the fuck is she in another time zone? Are we in the this is wild. And then sure enough, she enters and the door disappears.
Yep.
Classic.
Which I'm confused by because Robert finds his way into this room just fine.
Well, the door appear. I mean, like in her eyes, I guess, to her eyes
so,
in that moment. It's very strange.
It's so strange.
But who is there? But
Eva.
Evil Eva.
Evil Eva. And she's gonna knife her. Gonna knife you with this knife.
The smallest knife in the world. Like she has like a baby scalpel.
It's borderline an emery board, Cecil.
Yeah, pretty much. She's like, I'm gonna get ya. And pulls out this knife, and I guffawed because it is the size of my pinky nail. Like TSA will let you on the airplane with the knife. That this is the boss battle of the fucking end of the movie, and this is what you brought. Like you brought like a toothpicks to a knife fight.
Okay. I honestly, if I'm gonna die by a knife, I want it to be a very big knife, because a tiny knife means you're gonna have to stab me a bunch. A big knife is gonna take fewer swipes. Make sure it's a big knife and that it's very sharp. I just want it to be done with quick. If that's the way I
find an artery, cut artery. Goodbye.
I saw this knife and I actually was more scared for her because I'm like, oh, that's gonna be a bunch of stabs.
That's gonna take a long time.
So she's finally raises slowly the knife to get Jenny, but then boom, Dr. Robert Anderson comes through and blocks it with his hairy forearm.
Yeah, the hairiest forearm, the second hairiest forearms in all of Boston.
It's almost as hairy as decapitated Tom's neck.
Yes.
And he gets it cut wide open.
Oh no.
But he saves her. But then Eva's gonna do it again, but then she kind of goes blank and dull-eyed and just collapses to the floor. What happened?
I don't know, Jeffrey.
Eva? Well, they kind of explain it, right?
Well,
because this is Mom.
Is it Mom? Okay.
Because the next thing we see after
is
slow
Mary
motion
with Kathy,
and she's unplugging all of the intravenous tubes and things in her arms and unplugging the machine hooked up to her. So it's Mom is like, you just need to be let go. Let your spirit free.
Time to re-enter that wheel of reincarnation, girl. You got to get out of here. But that's what actually is supposed to happen. But in like the way it's edited together, it's like, Eva sort of falls back and then it just cuts to like a morphine drip. And I was like, well, that is a really unfortunately timed morphine drip.
It's confusing.
But I guess, it's very confusing what the fuck actually happens. But yeah, it is Mary who kind of is like, oh, my daughter. So sad.
So sad. It's time to let yourself go, young lady. And she does. We see the overhead model shot of the hospital and like smoke of her spirit set free. Put on your makeup. Your eyes are blue enough. And we have credits. Apparently variably misspelled credits throughout.
Very misspelled. There's also somebody whose name is in there twice. One of the actors. I was like, y'all, this is a shit show.
The end. Shall we rate this movie?
Yes, let's.
All right. Let's start with approachability. So on our Sasha scale, the squeamish approachability scale for the horror averse, I would say if you're a little bit nervous about seeing horror movies on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being do not go near, 10 being very approachable, I would give Enigma like 7 snail trail spa treatments out of 10. Listen, it's gory, right? Because there's a nipple biting and spitting.
Yeah.
There's a headless man in
Headless
the bed.
bodies. Yeah.
I just know that those are there. But it's so goofy.
It's wrapped up in a burrito of goofy.
Like, I was just thinking about the movie, another 1987, I think, film, Summer School, with Mark Harmon.
Okay.
Do you remember this movie? And
No,
two of the kids, so it's just a wacky summer comedy, but there is two of his, it's Mark Harmon is the gym teacher at some high school, and he's forced to stay on and teach summer school.
Okay.
And he gets the worst kids. Obviously, you have to stay for summer school. Two of the boys in this movie are really into horror films. So they're constantly doing funny shit like, you know, killer rabbits that tear their face. Gotcha. They have a bunch of stuff where everybody... Yeah. So there's a bunch of like gore in that movie, but there's
more gore in summer school.
Equal amount. But it's so silly and self-aware.
Yeah. And
in this movie, it feels on that same level. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, even if you are gore-averse, shit, the heavy gore in this movie does not feel horror-y to me. Yeah, I just thought this movie's really silly. I think it feels like a extended sketch comedy. I think it's campy and funny, and I think you could get together with friends and do a little reenacting, like a shadow cast of Ænigma. So I don't know. That's where I am. I'm just gonna say 7 out of 10 snail trail spa treatments. I don't know. What do you think, Cecil? As a horror film,
this is a tough one because Lucio Fulci has such a reputation. You know, and this was his last film, I believe. So this is definitely like, we're not pushing any boundaries here. The snail death is pretty legendary, but the rest of this movie is silly.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'm going to give it 4 out of 10 bleeding paintings. Bleeding baby paintings.
Bleeding baby paintings. Let's figure out what movie we will watch next. You have a scare die. I have a style die. We'll roll those up, see what movie matches those two things. So on your scare die, Cecil, if you roll a 1, our next movie scare is a wild card, whatever scare we want. 2, a vampire. 3, dolls or clowns. 4, sadist. 5, animals. 6, cursed.
That's a 6.
We're going to get cursed. Cursed or cursed, either way. Let me roll up a style, see what matches our cursed scare. If I roll a 1, it's Latin American film. If I roll a 2, it's a splatter film. 3, a movie from the 1970s. 4, something from the last 5 years. 5, a rural horror. Or 6, something just straight up what the fuck bonkers. All right, here we go. I got a 5, rural horror and cursed.
Ooh, that's an odd combination, but not bad.
Yeah, let's see what we got here. So, okay, let's look at our sheet first, and then we'll pull up the Letterboxd.
Yeah.
Now, okay, I have a question here, because when I was looking at our spreadsheet this past week,
yeah,
I noticed a couple on here, and I don't know if these are left over from a previous thing or if you put them on here. But I see X.
Okay.
But that's not a curse, right?
No, that might be leftover.
I think that's leftover. And Texas Chainsaw 2.
Also leftover.
Yeah, that's not cursed either.
I think I did put Color Out of Space on there because it's kind of like Alien Curse, like a family that has an alien landing kind of thing. Sort of may have to deal with it. So I put a question mark by it.
Yeah.
Not a traditional, you know, witchy voodoo Satan-y curse, more of a space curse.
Space curse. Yep.
I also put Cabin Fever on there, which feels very cursed. Like, I don't know, like, is disease a curse? In this case, it does kind of feel like it is. The same with The Ruins, which is, you know, kind of an era. Both of them are like, you know, group of 20-somethings in a cabin. Group of 20-somethings go to Mexico. The Ruins is definitely much more of a, like, these people go to like a cursed pyramid and they cannot leave because they have become cursed by this pyramid or this, ziggurat in, Oaxaca, Mexico, or whatever.
Okay, sure.
So the ruins over Cabin Fever. I was like, is Cabin Fever a cursed movie? I don't know.
And
those are the ones I put on there.
Did you put Antrim on there, or did I put that on there?
Me...
Either way, it sounds like it just
I did put this one on there.
Okay.
To rescue the soul of their deceased dog, a young boy and girl enter a forest and dig a hole to hell. And it just like has a lot of like whatever the Satanist, behalf fat statue kind of thing.
Yeah.
Seems pretty cursy.
Rumored to have been lost. Antrim appears as a cursed film from the 1970s. Okay, yep, there it is. Cursed.
So like the film, like you're watching a film that is cursed kind of thing. I think that sounded pretty cool.
Do we know it's rural?
And and it sounds like it's out in the woods.
Okay.
So check and check.
All right, so let's look at Letterboxd. We have some good suggestions on here. Katie gives us Autopsy of Jane Doe. Curse is never perfectly defined,
film.
But I think it's there to count as an option, and the government figure talks about it. The Feast from 2021, would a curse count as waking up a vengeful goddess?
Okay.
But the whole rural community has avoided.
Ooh, that sounds like fun. I love some folk horror, especially...
It's a Welsh film, apparently.
Welsh folk horror. Yes.
Diamond Dogs gives us The Endless.
That sounds really similar to Antrim as well. And I think this is like, two brothers return to a cult they left as a children, but it's like it also I don't know. This one is I've tried to get this movie on the show for a minute.
Weaponized Toaster says seconding Antrim because it's actually supposed to be cursed. Antlers 2021, a small town Oregon teacher and a brother. Local sheriff discover a young student harboring a dangerous secret. Peter Burt says, would the Evil Dead count? Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I can't believe we didn't put Evil Dead on here.
Yeah. Jeffrey, we've done Army of Darkness.
We've done Army of Darkness.
Okay, but we've not done Evil Dead 1 or Evil Dead 2 because like we might have done it as a Patreon or something like that.
We did it like as a Night Vale Patreon before we started this podcast, but we don't have but we haven't recorded that. Miss Laconic says Impedagore 2019, young woman returns to her remote hometown. Unbeknownst to her, the village is suffering from a curse. She may be the key to breaking it. Indonesian folk horror.
Ooh, fun.
Which is fun. King and Commoner says either Pet Cemetery.
I can't believe we didn't think of Pet Cemetery.
So
that is like ultimately rural
and cursed. Yeah.
Duh. Oh my God.
Grave Crab gives us Resolution 2012, Two Friends, an Intervention, and a Time Loop.
Okay.
Another vote for Fear Street from Volatin Spider. Claire Croy says The Ritual, which we have. We have The Ruins.
Yes.
Ritual, another hiking trip, northern Sweden. Slow burn, great atmosphere, creepy design.
Yeah, I think this is like another British film, though. It's like 4 British mates. Kind of like what happens.
Kind of the descent, but
yeah, totally that. Like what happens when city kids go out into the country and have to deal with things.
Ganymede's Cup gives us Things Heard and Seen, a Netflix horror film from Sherry Springer Berman and Robert Polcini, starring Amanda Seyfried and James Norton. Movie takes place in rural upstate New York, and being damned / cursed is the central theme.
Ooh,
never heard of this movie.
Me neither.
Okay, that's fun. Sorcery from this year. This is brought to us by Aldo Ojeda. Chilean, German, Mexican co-production set in a Chilean island in the late 19th century, starring an indigenous girl.
Okay.
Danica Ray Borderlands / Final Prayer would work. Found footage about people from the Catholic Church coming to verify whether or not a miracle has actually occurred. And then finally, JB Wolf, Evil Dead 2, Cabin in the Woods.
Totally.
Done. Yeah.
We have so much.
We have a lot. Autopsy of Jane Doe is one that I feel like modern classic. I feel like people really love this movie.
It's very smart.
Yeah.
And a really interesting movie. However, I'm gonna not really rural.
Okay.
Like rural is such a like I want people in the woods, no escape. And like Jane Doe, Autopsy of Jane Doe is a great film. Listen, go and watch it. But it's an autopsy film.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's much more of a locked box. We're trapped with this creepy, possibly possessed demon-y body kind of thing.
I'm really intrigued with The Feast because it's Welsh folk horror sounding.
The Feast sounds interesting. I mean, I know I put Antrim on there, but Antrim I think
Antrim.
is like and then what was it, the ritual?
Impedagore sounds interesting because we haven't. It's Indonesian folk horror. It's really fascinating to me. This is one that I've seen come up.
Sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this definitely looks like you are in the woods.
Uh-huh.
You're in the jungle, baby. You're gonna die.
You're gonna die. Okay, Impedagore sounds really intriguing. Pet Sematary, I've never seen the original. I've read the book.
I've
never seen the original.
You've never seen the original?
No,
You've
I've
never
read
seen the original
book.
made.
Yeah, but I've never seen Pet Sematary as a movie.
Jeffrey, I feel like your decision has just been made then.
Oh, you think that's it? Yeah.
I mean, you've never seen the original Pet Sematary?
I haven't. No, should we do that? Is that just, I mean, do you have any others that you were like, I would rather watch this? But
no, there's a lot. I mean, like, there's a lot of great movies on this list, but I feel like we gotta cover our bases.
Okay, great. Well, let's do Pet Sematary. That sounds like a great idea. It feels like we should have done this. Thank you, King and Commoner, for pointing that out to us. Yeah, so we're talking about the 1989 one, right? The original.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, and that's available for streaming. Mary Lambert, the director, fantastic. So, great, let's do this shit. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. And if y'all have thoughts on Ænigma or ideas for other movies that would have been good, rural horror meets cursed something, let us know on Instagram at randomhorror9 or on Patreon, where we have public discussion threads for each and every episode, and you do not have to be a paying member to participate in those. So watch the original Pet Sematary 1989 with us this week, and come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no Greek statues giving you a hug or nothing. Boo!
Boo.